Hello, we are live here with His Excellency Bishop Donald Sanborn. I am Father Desposito. Bishop Sanborn is the superior of the Roman Catholic Institute and director of Most Holy Trinity Seminary. This is an emergency broadcast or live stream because of what happened today. Archbishop Viganò has been excommunicated for the alleged crime of schism, for not recognizing Bergoglio as the true pope, and for refusing to recognize the magisterium of the council known as Vatican II. So, Your Excellency, what do you think about what is going on today?
I think it's excellent news because finally, after 59 years of Vatican II closed in 1965, so this is 59 years, finally there is one prelate who is saying everything that needs to be said concerning Vatican II, the post-Vatican II changes, and the hierarchy that promotes these changes, particularly the Vatican II so-called popes, and particularly Bergoglio, who embodies all of that this is all phony, that this is all false Catholicism, and that it needs to be rejected, as well as the people who are promoting it. That's the way I see it. And he's had he just has tremendous courage to say these things, and he has said all of this very carefully and with great thought and without any emotion or vitriol. He just says what is and has been consistent in his thinking, and he has been attacked by these very heretics who have taken over the positions of the Catholic Church, or at least seem to have done that. By appearance, they have done that, and have imposed upon the Catholic Church these false doctrines and false practices, false disciplines, and have wreaked untold damage in the Catholic Church. I compare it to a pack of hyenas. If you've ever seen videos or films of a pack of hyenas eating a carcass, the carcass here is the Roman Catholic Church, which was in perfect condition in 1958. Then a pack of hyenas, which is the Novus Ordo hierarchy, come, and they are tearing at the flesh of the Catholic Church, their mouths full of blood from their victim. And now they are turning around to Archbishop Viganò and saying, "You're not one of us." And if I were Archbishop Viganò, I would say, "No, I am certainly not one of you, and I'm proud not to be one of you." But that's what they are doing. I know it's a very graphic image, but they are destroying the faithful. They are eating away at the faithful by destroying their faith. It's just like a pack of hyenas eating at a carcass in Africa. It's a disgusting sight, and that's what has happened over the past 59 years. And today I am delighted that finally someone has set out and the whole everything that should be said about Vatican II and has been excommunicated for it. It is his honor, and may God bless him.
And it is ironic, Your Excellency, he who has excommunicated him is, on the one hand, Bergoglio and Cardinal, I think, Tuccio Fernandez.
Tuccio Fernandez, who wrote a disgusting, filthy book. Just listen to some of this is the excommunicator. This is a partial list of his heresies. Just listen. There is no hell, according to Bergoglio. That's a heresy. Atheists go to heaven. That's a heresy. God wants people to live in fornicatory concubinage, to remain together in order to maintain family unity. That was in a document a few years ago. He said that couples living in adulterous false marriages can receive communion. He said recently we have to reinterpret the teachings of Vatican I on papal infallibility in order to bring them more in line with modern theology. That is a heresy. It is the heresy of evolution of dogma, which is condemned by St. Pius X. He also condemns the propagation of the faith. He said that proselytism, which means the propagation of the faith, is supreme nonsense, solemn nonsense. That's a quote, solemn nonsense, that you're not supposed to try to convert people. That's a heresy. All right? And he has made many, many statements and acts in support of ecumenism, which is also a heresy condemned by Pope Pius XI. He said that Muslims worship the same God as we do. Muslims say that their God does not have a son. How could they be worshiping the same God as we do if their God does not have a son? We worship the Son of God. So, I mean, this is just a partial list. If you look at everything over these past 10 or 12 years that he's been supposedly in office, I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And that excludes all of the actions that he has done, which manifest heresy. This is the person excommunicating Archbishop Viganò. Any one of these things would have merited that Bergoglio be excommunicated. But all of the rancor and anger of the Novus Ordo is poured out upon anyone who would stand up for tradition. And we have seen this consistently from the time of Paul VI on, that if you try to stand up for tradition, you are in trouble and you get burned at the stake. And this is because they hate the Catholic faith. They hate the traditional Mass. For them, it's got to go, and this new religion has to be set in place.
And Your Excellency, it's important to note that this is not just Bergoglio, obviously, it's Vatican II, and Archbishop Viganò has been very clear about it.
Yes, and that has been lacking in the past. You see, Archbishop Lefebvre was ambivalent about Vatican II in this sense. He did point out the errors of Vatican II, but he never condemned it the way Archbishop Viganò has done. In other words, he has called it a cancer. He said this is at the bottom of all of this, and that it is merely spreading. Bergoglio is merely spreading the cancer. It is a cancer. It has to be something that must be annulled. But Archbishop Lefebvre always was willing to accept it to a certain extent and to compromise with the Vatican, and never came out with a clear condemnation of Vatican II as something that is totally unacceptable for Roman Catholics to assent to.
And as traditional Catholics, Your Excellency, we cannot ignore Vatican II. The document says, the decree of excommunication, that there is magisterium. There is actually...
Yes, the magisterial authority of Vatican II. It is a solemnly convoked general council. It is impossible that when that council speaks of dogmatic things, that it not engage the infallibility of the Catholic Church. If you have the Pope and the bishops in a council talking about dogma, and it does talk about dogma, for example, the dogmatic constitution on the Church, Lumen Gentium, that's how it's entitled. It does talk about dogma. It talks about morals. Those things would be necessarily magisterial and would necessarily demand our assent of faith. And here in this document of excommunication of Archbishop Viganò, it cites him for not accepting the magisterial authority of Vatican II. So that should put to rest all of the Novus Ordo conservatives who use the argument that it was only a pastoral council and had no real magisterial or dogmatic authority. Please, let us put that to rest now. This has been made very clear by this excommunication.
So, Your Excellency, how do you think other traditional Catholics will react?
How will they react? I think that this is a sign of contradiction, because either Viganò is correct or Bergoglio is correct. There has been a declaration of war between them. Viganò has declared war on the council and the post-conciliar so-called magisterium on Bergoglio, and Bergoglio has declared war on him. This is a crossroads, and they should react in full support of Archbishop Viganò. He has had an unbelievable courage in saying these things and consistency in saying these things. He is, I believe that his excommunication will be a sign of contradiction, just as Simeon said of our Lord. It will be the rise and the fall of many, he will be the rise and the fall of many in Israel. So also the side that you take in this will mean whether you're Catholic or not.
And we know that Archbishop Lefebvre was also excommunicated, Your Excellency, but there is a difference, right, between this excommunication and the one of Archbishop Lefebvre?
Very much, because what led up to the excommunication of Archbishop Lefebvre was the fact that although he was communicating with the Vatican and trying to find some sort of agreement with the Vatican up to May of 1988, he, at that point, signed an agreement with the Vatican whereby they would appoint bishops for the Society of St. Pius X. That was a protocol, meaning a preliminary document. The next day, he repudiated it and said, no, I don't do it. I don't want it. And up to that time, he was saying John Paul II was the vicar of Christ, and he was being very, very conciliatory toward all of the modernists in Rome. And then by the middle of June, in order to justify his, from the point of view of the Novus Ordo, illegal consecration of bishops, he revealed a letter which he had written in the previous August of 1987, saying that the forces of Antichrist have invaded the church, implying that John Paul II went in a matter of 6 weeks from being the vicar of Christ to the Antichrist. And that was the justification for his doing this, what would be an illegal thing in the eyes of the Vatican. And so he was excommunicated not for defending the Catholic faith, but for violating a rule of canon law. And it was a rule of canon law. They accept, the Society of St. Pius X accepts the 1983 rule in the Code of Canon Law, which makes that a crime worthy of excommunication. That had not been true in the 1917 Code of Canon Law. But they came out and accepted the 1983 Code of Canon Law, which has heresy in it. And so really, he was excommunicated for violating a law that he himself observed. During that ceremony of consecration of bishops in 1988, he gave a sermon which excoriated the Novus Ordo, the whole thing. But then afterwards, he said to the reporters, he said, don't worry, in 5 years, everything will be patched up, meaning with the Vatican. Therefore saying that he would continue to pursue a conciliatory path with the modernists in the Vatican. So that is first of all, the motive of excommunication was not one of defending the faith. It was violating a law. This is one of defending the Catholic faith and of condemning everything that Vatican II and the post-Vatican II magisterium and discipline has done, and condemning the heresies of Bergoglio. That is worthy of honor. That is an excommunication which is like that of Athanasius. He is the Athanasius of our time, Archbishop Viganò. He is the Athanasius of our time. And so I commend what he has done.
So now the focus or the reaction to all of what is going on, Your Excellency, should again center in Vatican II and in the actual problem, not in the Latin Mass. I see that many people still today are focusing on the wrong thing.
Yes, the Latin Mass, or they're trying to whitewash Vatican II. They're trying to eke out a Catholic existence within the Novus Ordo. That is a big waste of time, and furthermore, it is contrary to faith. That is, either Vatican II and its changes are the Catholic faith, or they are not. There's no gray area between those two things. You can't be a little Catholic or somewhat Catholic. It either is the Catholic faith or it isn't. If it is not, it must be rejected with the same fervor that all of the martyrs of the early church and all of the martyrs of the Reformation rejected the new religion and they went to their deaths for it. All right, all of the English martyrs, for example, went to their horrid deaths for rejecting the new religion. So either it's one or the other, because you can't be in between on this subject. And I think that has become very clear with the excommunication of Archbishop Viganò.
And again, probably this is obvious right now, by the context, but you think this is very historical?
Historical. It's more important than the 4th of July.
And how, Your Excellency, should we encourage and support Archbishop Viganò?
Well, of course, with our prayers, with our messages to him, and with donations to him. I mean, don't forget that he, he's cut off from everything now, and the faithful have to help him to live even, and to support his work, and to do whatever else he sees as necessary in this problem in the church.
So usually in the live stream we have a whole hour. Right now it's only have been probably 15 minutes or 20 minutes. So and we ask people to participate and to send the super chats. So if you would like to do that, you're welcome. And any questions that are related to the topic of Archbishop Viganò's excommunication is welcomed in the chat. So, Your Excellency, again, I think I asked this before, but do you think the Society St. Pius X will finally favor this?
No, I don't. I think that they are locked into such a devotion to Archbishop Lefebvre as if everything he said and did were set in tablets of stone. Archbishop Viganò pointed out that he thought, if I'm not mistaken, and that Archbishop Lefebvre would be a sedevacantist today. And I agree with that. And I think that you cannot lock Archbishop Lefebvre into a stone vault and say, this is it, like the Old Testament, this is never going to change. I think that they could say, yes, things have changed since the death of Archbishop Lefebvre, and things have become much more clear since that time. And yes, it's very probable that he would have been a sedevacantist, and I think we should take that position. That's what they should say. But I don't know if they can break out of that idea of that set in stone legacy of Archbishop Lefebvre. I don't know. They seem to base all of their theology and discipline on things that he said and did. And while he was a very courageous man, and while he did a great deal for the traditional movement, he set it on its feet and said some wonderful things in his lifetime. I knew him personally. Nonetheless, he's not, an infallible source of dogma, nor do we have to base everything on what he said and did. He certainly gave us a lot of very good advice, but things have changed since 1991 when he passed away. And so I think that they should understand that. I think that they need to move on a little bit and see this as a something where they have to take a side. Are they going to take Bergoglio's side in this? Are they going to say, well, it's an invalid excommunication? How could you say that this is when there's all the evidence in the document of all of the wonderful things that Archbishop Viganò has said in defense of the Catholic faith and in condemnation of everything that has gone on since the council? How can you say that, well, that's an invalid, that means you're taking a side against Bergoglio? You can't have it both ways. One or the other is correct in this. And if they side with Bergoglio in this, I mean, if they say, well, yes, we don't support the sedevacantists, so Bergoglio is right to excommunicate him, are they going to say that? My gosh, I hope they don't.
And you think, Your Excellency, the faithful going to the SSPX chapels are going to exert some pressure?
I think so. I think that it is impossible for a traditional Catholic not to rally behind Archbishop Viganò. And the fact that he has said explicitly that the man is not the Pope, this Bergoglio creature, is not the Pope, I think that they are going to be tempted to say, we should say the same thing. I mean, this is a Catholic prelate saying this, and he's defending the faith. And why are not we with him? Why are we defending this person who says all of these heresies? You see, this Bergoglio person. Why do we insist that this? Why do we have his picture up when we come into the church and all? This man has destroyed the Catholic faith, and here Archbishop Viganò should be supported. And therefore, we have to be against Bergoglio, because you can't be for one and not against the other.
And well, this may be related to what is going on, but there seems to be rumors about the banning the traditional Latin Mass. You think that's true?
Well, I don't know. It's it's all rumor. It's supposed to happen on the 16th of July. It might be restricted more. Really, it's hard to comment on that, because there's an awful lot of rumor. But I know Bergoglio hates the traditional Latin Mass. He sees it as a nest of resistance to Vatican II, which it is. It's true. There's a great sermon by Father de Say, who says that very thing, that all of these groups that have the traditional Latin Mass have the same, and in his experience, have the same feelings as we do about the Vatican II and everything else. In other words, that they just want to see the return of pre-Vatican II Catholicism. I mean, they have no sympathy for anything that has happened since Vatican II. So they might be moved too to take a firmer stand. I hope so. But as far as what I think Bergoglio will at least restrict them more, especially in light of Viganò. This is a declaration of war between the traditional faith and the new religion. There's no other way to put it.
And I have a question, Your Excellency. It seems that Archbishop Viganò has been, finding out things little by little, or at least expressing them publicly. Do you think he has done any research on the validity of the new rite of episcopal consecration?
I don't know, because I'm not in contact with him personally, and I don't know, but he has to think about this, that if he is saying that Bergoglio is not a true pope because of defect of consent, that is, that he by consenting to the papacy, he intended to impose upon the church a false religion. And I'm putting words in his mouth, but I'm saying essentially what he's saying. If that's the reason why he is not a true pope, I don't see how you could avoid saying that about at least Paul VI on. Because and if you're saying Vatican II is a cancer, the imposition of Vatican II upon the church and the intention to impose that on the church would invalidate the consent of all of those so-called popes. If that's true, that means that the episcopal consecration, the new rite of episcopal consecration approved in 1968, would be of at least dubious validity, in the sense that it was not approved by a Roman pontiff. See, the church must approve its rites. If these people did not have the power of Peter, did not have the power of the Roman pontiff, including Paul VI, then that becomes an invention of the modernist theologians who cooked it up, and it doesn't have the stamp of approval of the Catholic Church. And that would render it, at the very least, doubtful especially that there are substantial changes. It's not just some minor change. There's a substantial change of the words of episcopal consecration. And so I think that conclusion, or that is inevitable in the logic of what he's saying. Now, he has not come out and said that, but the logic is there. Are these people popes or not? How does Bergoglio differ from Paul VI? If Vatican II is the source of the whole problem, how does Bergoglio differ from Paul VI, or from John Paul I, John Paul II, or Ratzinger?
Yes. So one more question.
Sure.
people may be wondering about the reaction of the conservative cardinals after this, if they're going to get some courage, or they're going to just do nothing as they have been doing for many years.
Yes, really the solution to the problem in the church rests with them, because they have, despite their adherence to the Novus Ordo, they have an appointment to be electors. I mean, you can talk about cardinal, they are electors, and they are capable, therefore, of receiving a temporary jurisdiction, even though they adhere to the Novus Ordo, a temporary emergency jurisdiction, you might say, to elect a valid pope, because the church needs it, just as a defrocked priest has the jurisdiction, the sacramental jurisdiction, to absolve somebody, even though he's completely separated from his bishop, he's renegade. He can absolve a Catholic because the Catholic needs his absolution. See, so that's the same principle, is that the church absolutely needs electors, and they could therefore elect someone validly. That's what needs to happen. They have to elect the right person. But that's the only way we're going to get out of this, is first the denunciation of the Novus Ordo hierarchy as something that is not a Catholic hierarchy, to strip from them this legitimacy that they have of being appointed, of being elected, the fact that they have come in through the gate, so to speak. Strip that from them, unmask them, and then proceed to a conclave, however small it would be, of those who adhere to the Catholic faith. And so I think they should rally behind Viganò and say, yes, you're right, this has been a disaster for the Catholic Church, and finally we need to do something about it. That should be our prayer. It may not happen overnight, but as I said, this is a declaration of war, and you have to take one side or the other in it.
And I think, in my opinion, that Cardinal Borg, for example, or conservative cardinals are not aware that if they were to do something about the problem, they will have a lot of support from from laity and from people that want the church to be, the order in the church to be restored.
Absolutely, yes. The people who have retained the Catholic faith despite the hyenas, they have retained the Catholic faith. They want order. They want to go back to what was the beauty and order of the Catholic Church before Vatican II came and destroyed all of it. And yes, they would have support. And it's the rational and logical and holy thing to do.
So we have to do both, obviously, have to pray, and for those who are able to do something about it from the legal, juridical point of view, they have to act.
Yes.
For prayers, if you follow my account on X, we have a prayer group, with the intention of ending Vatican II and restoring all things in Christ and the Catholic faith to all of the structures. At this moment, we have at least 163 people, I think, that are pledged to offer at least one rosary every week for this intention. So the more we pray, obviously, you may say the grace of God may be attracted.
The only solution is the grace of God. There is nothing we can do, and all of these persons, all of these prelates, have to be moved by the grace of God. It would take heroic courage to do it. It would be historical courage, you might say, and we have to pray for them to do what their duty is.
And things are very bad in the church, but we have to remember that St. Paul was persecuting the church at one moment, and he was converted.
Yes. There are examples of many unusual conversions in the history of the church. I think the best conversion would be of Bergoglio himself, because he's very aggressive with his goals. You see, he's a man that is very aggressive. If he converted, just like St. Paul, if he converted, he would restore the church in a few weeks. I mean, it's very unlikely, but he would. And instead of persecuting it the way he does, he would have the energy and vision to restore it. So I mean, just as St. Paul had all of the qualities necessary to preach the gospel to the Gentiles, those were God-given gifts, natural gifts, and so God raised him up to that level. So look at St. Augustine and many others who St. Augustine was a heretic and a dirty sinner, frankly, and he became one of the greatest doctors of the Catholic Church. So it's possible. The grace of God is stronger than sin. It is stronger than heresy. It is stronger than unbelief, and it is a very, very strong influence, and God can do whatever he wants with us. Right, and the grace of God is a very, very strong influence on us.
And also history confirms this fact with the persecutions of the first 3 centuries, and then everything changing from one with Constantine. And,
yes. Things can change overnight. The greatest darkness was the reign of Diocletian, which came just before the reign of Constantine. Diocletian was and his cohorts were killing Christians everywhere in the empire, and then shortly thereafter there was Constantine, and he gave religious liberty to the Christians, and then finally the empire became a Christian empire under Theodosius in the 380s AD. So things can turn around very suddenly, and we must always maintain our faith in the Catholic Church as something, a church which is the church, which is assisted by God. In other words, it is not on its own. It's not merely a collection of human beings like the Church of England or the Lutheran Church of America. It is a church that is a divine institution assisted by the grace of God. That is our creed. That is our belief. We believe as much in that as we believe in the Blessed Trinity and in the Blessed Sacrament and in the divinity of Christ. It is the object of our faith. And that is why we do what we do. Because humanly speaking, the whole thing is hopeless. If this is just a human institution, it's all hopeless. But our faith is in the church. In every heresy, there is some aspect of our faith which is tested. And there was the divinity of Christ that was tested in the early church. There was the Blessed Sacrament that was tested in the Middle Ages. The doctrine of grace in a latter period, and also in the early church, there is something that the heretics seize upon, and here we have what they have seized upon is the divine assistance to the Catholic Church, and we have to be in a way martyrs, and Archbishop Viganò is a martyr right now for the divine assistance to the Catholic Church.
Your Excellency, are we going to see a restoration of authority in the Church?
Well, I'm 74 and a half, so I tend to doubt it, but I don't think I'll see it. But the young ones might see it, yes. We don't know what Providence has for us, so we don't know.
All right. Thank you, Your Excellency, for today's sudden live stream. And for those who are watching this live stream, or afterwards as a video, let's continue praying for the general intentions of the Church, that authority is restored, and that Archbishop Viganò continues getting the courage to fight against the enemies of Christ and of the Church.
Yes. And
pray also for vocations. Pray for all the things that we need to keep the faith integral, and also for those who do not have the sacraments that we need more priests so that we can offer the sacraments to more people in the whole world.
Yes. Priests are the key to everything, and the seminary is the key to priests.
Yes. Thank you, Your Excellency.
Not at all.